Hello and welcome. In this video we're setting up the tank behind me. It's an aquascape that's inspired by a jungle by the beach, and I hope you enjoyed the video as much as I enjoyed making it.
To start off with, I'll build up a little bit of height using this reused substrate. It mainly consists of sand, aqua soil and gravel. Next, I'll crush up some root tabs for a bit of extra nutrients and mix them into the sand. The inspiration for this aquascape came from the many scapes I have seen recently where the substrate is split up into two sections, a soil or dirt for planting and then a nice sand for aesthetics, divided by a wall of rocks in the middle. Commonly the tanks are split from front to back or left to right, so I decided to do a mixture of the two by building the retaining wall on a diagonal line using Syria stone. I'm using fluval stratum for planting the jungle, contrasted with a whitish sand, and a big piece of bogwood that looks like a fallen tree trunk, as well as this manzanita twig which will resemble the branches. I then very slowly filled up the tank using this plastic bag to disperse the water and prevent mixing up the substrate. Just like my last aquascape, the wood was too buoyant and not heavy enough, so it moved from the original position. When would I learn my lesson? So to weigh the wood down and keep it in place, I attached a rock using some super glue and a cotton pad. That did the trick. I didn't glue the manzanita to the log, so just a warning, you will see it move quite a lot. But now it's time to drain the water down and start the planting. In the foreground, I'm planting lots of little plugs of hairgrass, which will hopefully soon form a lovely thick carpet. Behind that, I'm planting Liliopsis, which is taller and thicker. The left side of the tank will be densely and heavily planted. I'd like it to look like a thick, luscious jungle, which will be in stark contrast to the beach-like sand. For the mid-ground, I'm using lots of different types of crypts. The tweezers can be quite useful, however sometimes I find them a little bit finicky, so it's easier to just use my hands. In the background, we're going to be using lots of different types of stem plants. The substrate was a little bit shallow, so I did add a little bit of extra aqua soil. Quickly fill the tank back up again to make planting the stems a little bit easier. Or at least I thought it would. Bruh. Bruh. We got there eventually. I have quite a lot of different types of epiphyte plants, mainly Anubias, so I'll be adding these into the cracks between the rocks and lodging them into the wood. I also added in a few clumps of moss off camera. For the filtration, I'll be using this canister filter with the inbuilt heater. It's actually the same one that I used for a time in the Shimpscape before switching it to a sponge filter. But recently, I've had it running on my big community tank, so it should be filled with lots of beneficial bacteria and it'll effectively cycle the tank almost immediately. But despite this, I'll be giving the tank a week or two before we add the inhabitants. After faffing around for 20 minutes, I finally got the filter working and it shot out muck and dirt everywhere. But within an hour, it was nice and clear again, which just goes to show how great of a filter it is. Normally at this stage I'll add in lots of floating plants, but currently a lot of my tanks are overrun with duckweed, so I decided to save the new tank from that same dreaded fate. I'm absolutely thrilled with how the tank's currently looking. It's got the jungle by the beach look, which I was totally going for, and I can't wait for a couple of months' time once all the plants have grown in and it looks even more magnificent. This cute little hitchhiker managed to get in the tank somehow. I think that it's a bladder snail, but I'll let them stay in there as their consumption of algae is very much appreciated. A few days and a couple of water changes later, I started to notice that some of the crypts were slowly melting and dying back. But I shouldn't worry, as this is to be expected, as the plants are just slowly settling into their new environment and they'll grow back even bigger and stronger. It's now a week and a half later after setting up the tank, and unfortunately the tank is in its ugly phase. Lots of diatoms and algae has formed on the sand, rocks, wood, plants and substrate. This is totally normal as the tank is currently finding its balance, but to help with the algae, I decided to reduce the hours of lighting from 8 hours just down to 6. It also wouldn't hurt to remove some manually. I pulled out some of the long stringy algae with tweezers, and then I siphoned out as much as I could.
Hello my little cuties. Yoink.
Couldn't resist adding in some pothos. It grows so well with just the roots in the tank, and it looks absolutely amazing.
Stupid!
And now it's time for everyone's favourite part, adding in the inhabitants. To start off with, we're going to go with the absolute classic Neocaridina shrimp, but to get them I needed to set a little trap. The little shrimpies simply can't refuse a delicious feast of some cucumber, and within no time they had taken the bait. So here I have about 30 little shrimp, Neocaridina, and there's a couple of reds, a couple of blues, but for the most part they're all what you would call the wild variety of cherry shrimp. So they're kind of a browny grey colour, somewhat see-through, with like a stripy pattern on them. This just goes to show what will happen when you do mix the different colours of shrimp together. Over a few generations they tend to revert back to their original coloration. So as cool as it is to have lots of different colours of shrimp in your tank, if you want to keep them those colours, it might not be the best thing to do in the long run. Shrimp can be sensitive to changes in water parameters, so I always drip acclimate them. And for the main event, I have a large school of celestial pearl danios. They're an awesome little nanofish with a striking pattern. They look a bit drab at the moment, but just wait until they're comfortable and have coloured up.
Oh, yes! Yo! all in all, I'm absolutely thrilled with how this tank turned out. It's definitely by far one of my absolute favourite scapes that I've ever done, and I'd really love to hear what you all think about it in the comments too. In terms of the tank stocking, we're definitely not done just yet. We do have some room for an additional thing that will inhabit that bottom half of the aquarium, so if you've got any cool suggestions for any bottom dwellers, please let me know in the comments, and fingers crossed I'll have them in my area. I'd just like to say thank you so much for making it this far. I really hope you did enjoy, and if you do, please consider liking and subscribing. And before I let you go, a little update on the Panda Corridoras. All I'm going to say is it's going really well, all thanks to your tips, tricks, suggestions and comments. So thank you for that, and I do really appreciate it. But I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you later, fish friends.